Even though Esther was my cousin, she was more like a real daughter to me. She did not have her father, she did not have her mother, so I adopted her. Not only was she very beautiful, but she was obedient and she was kind. When the king's order and his new law became public, Esther was taken to the palace to the care of Haggai, the one in charge of the women. I reminded Esther not to let anyone know she was Jewish. When the young women gathered to the second women's house, I was working for the king at the king's gate. Esther still wasn't telling anyone her background or her race as I had instructed her. She continued to do what I instructed her just as she had when she was in my care. One day while working at the king's gate, I heard two guards who were very angry with King Xerxes and they were planning to kill the king. I reported this to Queen Esther. She told the king about the incident, telling His Highness of their plans. The two men were found guilty and were impaled on pointed poles. A report was written into the royal record in the presence of the king. Fearing for his life, the king promoted Haman above all the other officials, including me. All the king's workers at the king's gates were ordered to kneel and bow before Haman. I did not and would not bow before Haman. Haman was a wealthy, influential officer in Xerxes' cabinet, but he was an Agagite, a descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites. I remembered the Amalekites were one of the most ancient of our Hebrew enemies. I remember the stories I had been told of what the Amalekites did to the Israelites when they were coming out of Egypt, how they picked off the old and the feeble and the frail. The royal workers at the gate asked me, "Why don't you obey the order?" They questioned me every day until finally I told them I was a Jew. They told Haman I was a Jew just to see if I would bow to Haman. He was so angry when he realized I would not kneel and bow that instead of just killing me, he decided to wipe out all the Jews, not just me. He would kill all my people throughout the entire kingdom of Xerxes. In the first month, servants threw Pur in front of Haman to find the best day for his plan, and the Pur chose the 12th month. When I learned what had been done, I blamed myself. I tore my clothes. I dressed in mourning clothes and put ashes on my head. And I went out into the heart of the city and cried out loudly and bitterly. I went as far as the king's gate because it was against the law for anyone to pass through it wearing mourning clothes. A great sadness came over all the Jews. When I received Esther's message, I immediately responded, "Don't think for 1 minute that unlike all the other Jews, you will be spared or come out of this alive simply because you live in the palace. In fact, if you don't speak up at this very important time, relief and rescue will come for our people from Yahweh. But you and your family will die. Who knows? Maybe it was for such a time as this that you came to be part of the royal family."